Most people try to change their lives the same way every time. They set a goal, they get motivated, and they start. For a while, it works. The energy is real. The intention is real. The belief that this time is different, that's real too. And then, something happens. Life gets loud. Progress slows. The feeling fades. And the version of themselves they were building, quietly, without announcement, goes back in the drawer. Until next time. Most people spend years in that loop, not because they're weak or don't want it badly enough, because nobody gave them a method. Here's one I follow that keeps me going. 5 simple steps. First, face your truth. This is where every transformation begins, and where most people never actually go, because it requires a lot of maturity, courage, and awareness. Confront the real you, not the version on the surface. Dig very deep. Most people don't understand why they are where they are. It didn't start with a decision you made as an adult. It started long before that. Before you could even name what was happening to you. The people around you, since childhood, were building something in you. Not intentionally. Most of them were doing exactly what they thought was right. But they were building. And what they built was a set of beliefs about what you are capable of, what is safe, what is possible, what is for you, and what isn't. It is those beliefs that were built in you, without your permission, before you had a say, that have been controlling you and your mind. Watching, waiting, telling you soon it will be better. The timing will be right. You'll be more ready. It took a very long time for those beliefs to build. They were part of you. They were part of your personality and your character. So imagine how hard it is to evaluate them and change them, or even admit some might be hurting you. Facing your truth means looking honestly at where you are, recognizing flaws, patterns, habits. Facing your truth means holding yourself accountable, pointing inwards, not outwards. You are the only reason, the only one responsible for every outcome in your life. Just you. You quit? You're exhausted? You graduated? You launched your business? Whatever it is, you are accountable. This is the starting line. Here is the core principle of this entire phase, and I want you to hear it. You cannot change what you refuse to own. This is your life, your choices, your decisions. Own them and accept them. What matters here is that you already know what you need to face. You've always known. The work is accepting and admitting it. Second, overcome limiting patterns. Now you've faced the truth. You know what's been holding you back. The question is, what do you do about it? Most people try to fight their patterns, white-knuckling through, using willpower as the only tool, grinding against the current until they run out of strength. It doesn't work, not long-term. You don't fight them, you replace them. There are many patterns that hold most people back, but what they all have in common is they feel safe, even the destructive ones, even the ones you're ashamed of, even the ones you've promised yourself 100 times you were going to stop. They feel safe because they're familiar, because your brain knows exactly what happens next. And a brain that knows what happens next is a brain that doesn't have to be afraid. So you don't fight the feeling. You give the brain something new to feel safe about. You start small, because small is how you teach your brain something it has forgotten, that you are capable of finishing things. One new habit, something achievable, something you can actually complete this week. Do it. Finish it. Feel what finishing feels like. That quiet, I did that. That's not nothing. That's the beginning of rewiring. Every time you prove to yourself that you can do something you didn't think you could, the ceiling moves. And then, and this is the part most people skip, you go toward pain. Because your pain tolerance, the distance between comfort and growth, is the exact size of your ceiling. Expand it. Pain is part of life. It is inevitable. We all have to go through it somehow. But some people train for pain the same way they train for anything else. They expose themselves to it. They learn that it doesn't kill them. It builds them. Pain is not a chain. It's not an obstacle. It's a launch pad. The core principle of this phase I want you to know. You don't overcome limiting patterns by fighting them. You replace them, one small win at a time, until the ceiling disappears. What you need to understand right now is this: the ceiling is not permanent. Nothing is. Third, rebuild. You've faced what was true. You've started breaking what was holding you back. Now comes the part that requires everything you've built so far. Now you build the new version, not the slightly improved one, not the old self wearing new habits. A new one, deliberate, strategic, built to last. Before you build anything, you have to let go. The past, the failures, the version of yourself you've been carrying because it felt wrong to abandon it. Leave it where it is. It doesn't define you. It prepared you. The people with the greatest stories, the ones you've been moved by, the ones you admire from a distance, most of them had to start over. They are the broken ones, the hurt ones, the ones who lost everything and rebuilt anyway. If you're in that place right now, that is not a curse. That is an opportunity that comfortable people will never have. You've been given the chance to write a great story. You've been given the chance to make a great comeback, one that people will talk about, one that people will respect. There's something gracious about people who rebuild themselves. They're wise, they're humble. They demand respect without even saying a word. You've been given that chance. Take it. To do so, you should know that rebuilding happens across different areas. Body first. A healthy body is not about aesthetics. It is infrastructure. It creates the mental clarity, the discipline, the energy that makes everything else in this method possible. You cannot rebuild a life on a foundation that's collapsing. Then, relationships. Look around you honestly. Who lifts you? Who drains you? Who would be quietly uncomfortable if you succeeded? The rebuild requires letting go of the weight, no matter how long you've been carrying it. Then, habits. One at a time, in order of impact. Not 5 habits. One, and then another. Slowly stacked. Then, thoughts. The voice in your head is not always telling you the truth. Learning to observe it rather than obey it. That's one of the most important skills you will ever develop. Now here is the core principle of this phase. You cannot build the next version of yourself while living as the old one. Be selfish with your time. Be strategic with your energy. Be ruthless with what you let go. The rebuild starts now. You'll never feel ready, so start anyway. Fourth, grind. Nobody tells you this part. They show you the results, the transformation, the before and after, the highlight reel of someone who made it. They don't show you the Tuesday at 6 a.m. when everything in you said stay in bed, the week where nothing moved, the moment you stood at the edge of quitting and had to decide, again, whether you were serious or just performing. That's the grind. Your progress will not be a straight line. It will be a zigzag, volatile, unpredictable. Weeks that feel like flying. Weeks that feel like standing still. That's the graph of everyone who ever built something real. The grind is not about eliminating that volatility. It's about one thing. Never letting a dip become a full stop. Reducing that volatility. The only difference that matters when the dip comes, one person keeps moving, the other stops and goes back to the starting line. Slow down if you have to, but don't stop. It is harder to restart than to continue at a slower pace. Picture this. It's just like pushing a car. Would you rather push one that is completely parked or one with wheels already slightly turning? As long as you keep moving, even slowly, you are still in the game. And then the checkpoint will come. It always comes. The voice that says this isn't working, that you're fooling yourself, that some people just aren't built for this. Don't fight that voice. Listen to it, and then keep going anyway. Because that voice is not the enemy. That voice is the test. And now, when it arrives, you are not the same person who used to stop here. So you don't stop here. You keep going when you don't feel like it. You keep going when nothing is working. You keep going when nobody would know if you quit. Because now you had decided to write your story. The core principle you should know here. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. Grind is what you do when both have left the building. Just keep moving. Fifth, evolve. At some point, and you'll know when it happens. Something shifts. It won't announce itself. It won't arrive with fanfare or a moment of obvious revelation. It will be quiet, almost invisible. You'll be in a situation that used to undo you, and you'll notice it doesn't anymore. Not because you suppressed it, because something in you has actually changed. Evolution requires something most people forget to do. Evaluation. Not judging yourself or measuring yourself against someone else's timeline. Looking honestly at what is working and what isn't. Which habits are sticking and which ones were never right in the first place. What needs to be adjusted and what needs to be dropped entirely. And then, most importantly, give yourself credit. Look back at where you started. The person who was avoiding their truth, who was running from pain. Look at how far they are from where you are now. Be proud of that. Privately, honestly proud. Because very few people in your life will consistently acknowledge how hard you've worked and how much you've changed. Most won't even notice. You have to see it yourself. Celebrate it yourself. Give yourself what you've earned. Evaluation helps adjusting the course, assessing yourself along the way. It also lets you know when to rest and when to continue, and on which path. You, out of all people, only know where you're coming from. So you are most qualified to decide where you're going and how. And here is the core principle of this phase. Evolution is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose. Every time you evaluate honestly, adjust without ego, rest without guilt, and give yourself the credit you've earned. Just remember, all it takes is a plan, a method, 5 steps, 5 phases. Face your truth, overcome your patterns, rebuild deliberately, grind without stopping, evolve continuously. That is our method. Of all the people who will watch this, few still will actually do the work. Be one of the few. Forge your path.